Hi guys, welcome to part 2 of Photoshop 101. So I'm just going to make some continuing edits on this photograph that I started working on in the first video. So what I have here is the image is turned black and white. I've made some minor contrast adjustments, as well as some minor brightness adjustments. So when I finished with this image in the first video, I went ahead and saved it as a JPEG. Now what that does is it's going to compress the file every time you save it. So you'll notice over here where my layers were built up in the last video, they're no longer there anymore. So that is something to keep in mind if you'd like to revisit these images and make adjustments here and there, which is definitely a good idea. So when I get to the end of this video, I'll show you how to go ahead and save this as a TIFF as well as a JPEG. So you'll have one version of the file that's compressed that you can upload to Box.com, and then one version of the file that's not compressed that still has those layers in there, so you can go back and make edits to the same image. So I'm just going to make some continuing edits here, like I said, with the image as is. So the first thing I want to show you guys is the dodge and burn tool. So this works essentially the same way as it does in the darkroom. We are going to come over here. I'm all the way on the left hand side and I'm hovering over the burn tool now. You'll notice it is a hand making like a small circle that would represent a burn tool that you might make in the darkroom. So I've clicked on the burn tool. I then have this circle that has opened up. Now if you click on that and it's not presenting you with this circle, what might be the problem is that you don't have your background layer selected. So right now I only have the background layer to work with. I might actually go ahead and make a copy of this while I'm thinking of it. Beautiful. So now it's allowing me to do this because I'm on a background layer. If I added an adjustment layer to this, so say I added a contrast layer like so, and then that was selected, I would no longer be able to make these burns. It's only going to affect this top layer that's selected. So you'll want to go ahead and click the background copy. Then you'll notice I can go through and use my burn tool, and you can see how it's darkening the sky there where I just went ahead and clicked and dragged around. So I don't want that there, so I'm just going to do Control-Z to get rid of that. Some places that I may want to burn into this image, maybe I want to burn in, this sky over here where it's getting a little bit lighter, for example. So what I can do with my burn tool is I can, number one, control the size. So I can use my bracket button. So the left-hand bracket on the keyboard is going to make the circle smaller, and then my right-hand bracket on the keyboard is going to make it bigger. So that will control the general size. Another thing you have control of here is up at the top you have a drop-down menu that will control what the brush looks like. So we've got these ones that have kind of a softer edge, which is normally a good direction to go. You can also control the size here, and you can control the hardness. So think of the hardness as the hardness of the edge of the tool that you're using. So if you want more of a feathered look, you are going to decrease the hardness. I'm already at 0%, so that's as soft as you can go. I can increase the hardness, and that's going to just give this kind of a more defined edge as I'm using this tool. So generally with dodging and burning, you want those marks to be subtle, so it's better to go with a lower percentage of hardness. So I'm going to go back around to around 5%. So I can increase the size, I can increase the exposure, so I can go lower or higher, and that's going to be darker or lighter, so I'm going to leave it relatively low. Again, we just want to be subtle. And then you can control the shadows, midtones, or highlights. So I generally just keep that at midtones, and I suggest you do the same, but if you are burning specifically shadows, you can adjust that to shadows, or if you're burning specifically highlights, you can adjust that for your highlights as well. So again, I'm just going to click and drag to use this tool, and now I have it on a lighter exposure, so it's very subtle, which is great. That's what we want. I don't have that hard edge or anything over there, so I'm pretty happy with that. If you want to use the dodge tool, you're going to hold down the burn tool, and it's going to present this menu that gives you 3 options here. So the dodge tool is at the beginning of the list, then the burn tool, and then something called a sponge tool. You can just go ahead and ignore that. So the dodge tool works exactly the same way. It's going to give you this little brush. The brackets are going to increase or decrease the size, and then again you can control the same things here. So the size of the brush, the hardness of the tool, and the like the tip, I guess you could call it. And then you have your range. So again, I'm just going to leave that on midtones, and the exposure is at 45%. I'll lower that to about 30, just to make sure that our marks are subtle. Okay, so with my dodge tool, I could come in and dodge maybe this side of the building over here. Again, I'm just going to click and drag. It's pretty subtle, so you might not be able to see change in the video, but I can see changes here on my screen, so I'm happy with that. You might want to dodge the snow a little bit if you want that brighter, so I've increased my brush size, and I'm just going to give a few passes over the snow down here until it gets bright to the degree that I'm happy with. So I'm pretty pleased with how that looks. So that is dodging and burning.